Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel Rogue, where today I'm going to be showing you how to pick a colour scheme for an orc. Rebel Rogue. Now, you might be wondering why I've chosen orcs. I've chosen orcs because they're very interesting and very different. There are so many different variations and a lot you can do with orcs, as opposed to, say, Space Marines, which are quite... Once you've picked the armour colour and the metal colour, there's not much else you do with them. Whereas with orcs, you can do an awful lot. This miniature is part of the Mystery Miniatures box. I picked it myself. I just picked it out and was like, yeah, I'll do this. And I do have an idea of what I want to do, but I'm just going to talk through some different different things to consider when painting orcs, or indeed any other similar scheme. The first thing to consider and to look at is what areas of colour are there on the model. On this model we have the skin, we've got the armour panels, the metal of the sword and the grill of the pistol, we've got clothes, we've got leather, pants, shoes, that sort of thing. And you want to think, the first thing to think about, once you've considered that, think what sort of tone do I want to bring to this model. This is good for any general colour scheme, but for orcs, quite useful. Do I want it to be quite bright and cheery, or do I want it to be quite dark, grim? You could go with bright and colourful and quite 2nd edition, or dark, grim, 8th edition, 9th edition, 40k. For this model, I think I'm going to go sort of in the middle. Not going to quite go into the grimdark style and not going to go beyond into Fantasyland. You then, once you've chosen what sort of theme you want to go with, I even have on my mystery models sheet, I've got mood as I call it, dark or light, and that sort of helps to influence your colour choices. You also want to think about what sort of colour tone do you want? Do you want it to be slightly colder or warmer? That is a sort of technical colour theory thing, but if you go with warmer, you might want to go with more orangey browns, if you're going to use brown, slightly more reds, more oranges, warmer greens, whereas if you go with a colder, you might go with more cold greys, more blues, more purples. For this model, I'm just going to go in the middle, again. Now, the next part of considering colour schemes on orcs is you actually want, once you've identified the areas, you've decided what sort of mood you want, and you've decided what sort of tone you want. You can choose not to decide mood and tone, that's absolutely fine. But it is vital that you do decide on what the different areas of colour are going to be. I might paint all the straps the same, but I might also paint the handles of the weapons the same colour. I might choose to do that. The next part of this video is going to be where we delve into what sort of colours I personally might choose to use for different areas. A good area to consider on your orc, or good first area, good starting point, is actually the leather. Because your leathers can, yes, they may be a secondary colour to the overall tone of the model, but being able to interpret mood and tone through the leather is quite useful, and they often do have lots of different leathers on them, or you might choose to use lots of different browns. For some straps and such like, depending on your tone, if you're going slightly more warm or going with something that would contrast well with red, I might do a video on picking colours using the colour wheel soon, but if you're doing a lot of lots of reds or green even, if you want to contrast a bit with green, you could use dark flesh tone and terracotta just to build up a sort of red brown, or you could use similar colours, but you get a red brown straps. If you're going for a more neutral colours with your browns, you could use charred brown if you want to go quite dark, or the triad of flat brown, mahogany brown and saddle brown, all from Vallejo again. These three, I quite like them because they are just slight steps up from each other. I use them a lot. But if you want to go again slightly more warm, but still sort of earthy, quite orange though. You can go with Beastie Brown and Parasite Brown. They are steps up from each other. And if you just want to go with earth tones, quite natural, you could go with something like Flat Earth or Earth. I am using Vallejo here because this is what I've got and how I might paint them, but of course you can use whatever paints you happen to have, whatever such colours you happen to have. The next big area on an orc, certainly an orc, and especially this model, is the skin. These orc boy sculpts usually are a lot of skin exposed and lots of muscle, meaning it's quite important. It does make it quite important as to what colour you choose for the skin. There are lots of options, of course, because you could paint them any colour you wanted. You could paint them Caucasian flesh if you really wanted to, but orcs in the lore are traditionally green. If you want to go with quite a lore heavy approach, you could go with something like Vallejo Flat Green and Medium Olive. You could even go so far as Goblin Green, the classic colour, or now it's called Moot Green, but this is Goblin Green. 1990s bottle of Goblin Green transitioned into a Vallejo dropper bottle. It used to have black ink in it. I think I made a mess of putting it over. That's besides the point. You could go with the sort of quite bright, quite saturated green, or you could go with a sort of slightly more grey version. It's like field grey. It's still green, but it is slightly more grey. Or you could go with the dark, something like Vallejo's black green, if you really want dark green. Of course, you can go anyway. You could go with warm greens, such as olive greens, and olive browns and such like, olive greys. Or you could go with this sort of strange grey, greeny, desaturated craziness that is German camouflage extra dark green. Yeah, you could go with that. There are alternatives though. If you're a fan of Tolkien, you will know that orc skin in the Tolkien novels is black and they have red eyes, or red and orange eyes, right, fiery eyes. If I were going to go with painting orc skin black, I'd probably go with German tank crew, and I might highlight it with a bit of highlight for German black Panzer Racers uniform thing. It is a sort of brown, but it is the highlight for the black. I would certainly put a wash on the German tank crew though, because that gives it a really, really nice dark, very black tone to it, while still providing you nice shading and nice highlights. Alternatively, I might go with Eschen Grey if I wanted slightly more neutral. For the German tank crew is quite warm, so if I were going with a cooler model, I might go with Eschen Grey, or any other grey from any other manufacturer. For example, Somber Grey, if I were going quite cold. Another major part on orc models is metallics. There are a huge range of metallics. Vallejo alone has got hundreds of metallics, even if it's got a whole metal colour range. It's got the liquid gold range. I'm talking about Vallejo here mainly because I use them, but Citadel, it's got, 7, 8, 9, 15 metallics? It's got loads of metallics. Some examples of what I've got Vallejo's Tinny Tin, Hammered Copper, Brassy Brass, Bright Bronze, Glorious Gold, Polished Gold. That's just me golds. I've then got the Model Metallic Air Gunmetal, Model Coloured Gunmetal Grey, Game Coloured Gunmetal, Natural Steel, Oily Steel, Chainmail Silver and Silver. There's loads of them. So you have got a good amount of choice. But the main distinction you want to make is, do I want to go with silver, or do I want to go with a warm tone, such as tin or copper or brass? Copper would go well with a red, work well with red, and it would contrast quite nicely with green. But then generally golds work really nicely with red, but so does silver, because silver is quite neutral, but gold is quite warm. You can, of course, go with something like gunmetal blue, which would work nicely with blues, because it's blue and metallic. So there's a huge range you can go with. Personally, for something like a chopper blade, I would probably go with the silver, but I might put a few gold buckles or gold around the hilt, or like copper or something, copper around the like shooter, slugger, muzzle. So that's just a few of what I might do. I have done in the past. I think I did bronze on a Gretchen I painted. So I have done quite a few different things. But tying into that, you've then got the armour. The armour is quite important because it's the main area where you're going to get a splash of unique colour. For example, the Goth clan paint their armour black and often have checkered stripes on it. But not Bad Moons, the other ones. Blue. Death Skulls. Death Skulls paint their armour blue because they see it as lucky. So, though they might not wear very much armour, like this is pretty much the only piece of armour he has, as well as his helmet, it is a very good opportunity to bring a splash of colour to it. You might choose to contrast it with the rest of the model. If you've painted quite warm tones, you might go with a cold tone. If you might just choose that you're going with warm tones, you might go with a red for the armour. There's loads you can do with the armour of Orks, especially stuff like mega armour. That is where you really sort of need to know your mood and your tone, because you could go with an orange if you're going with warm and bright, you could go with a very light red, or you could go with a really dark blue if you're going cold. But you'd have to make sure it was a cold blue as well, because there's strange versions of blue that's actually warm. It's like more sort of sea greys. So, yeah. That is just a few of my thoughts on choosing colour schemes for Orks. I hope this has been a useful video to you. Oh, of course, you can paint the teeth and such like in teeth colours. Anyway, yeah, as I was saying, I hope this video has been useful to you. I hope you have taken something from it, even just for painting Space Marines even. There's some very important considerations, and I'm hoping in the future to do a mini-series on colour choosing and colour palettes. Anyway, if you've liked this video, smash that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and go and watch these two videos. Oh, and subscribe in the middle, in case you didn't know. And if you're watching on desktop, subscribe at the watermark. Yeah. Anyway, I'll see you for the next video.